So I was just chilling thinking that, hey, Apple's going to release iPads at the end of the month. I've got some time. I don't have to worry too much. But no, out of the blue, the iPad Mini 7 is official. Actually, it's not called the iPad Mini 7, it's called the iPad Mini brackets A17 Pro, which is a horrible name, but yes, this is the new iPad Mini. It's official. Out of nowhere, Apple dropped this. I'm quite all over the place right now, but anyways, let's delve into the new features. So guys, as we expected, this is a simple spec refresh for the most part. In fact, if you look at it, it looks basically the same as the iPad Mini 6. They're even being extra lazy and reusing the same wallpapers, but there is a new color, and that is a new kind of blue. It's as pale as the iPad Air blue, so yeah, I'm a bit disappointed the colors aren't very saturated, but it's to be expected. iPads usually get very pale shades. Anyways, delving into the actual upgrades, the display itself is still 8.3 inches, liquid retina. Now there were rumors that Apple is going to rotate the screen assembly to reduce a jelly scrolling effect. Apple has not mentioned this in the press release because they would not mention the iPad Mini 6 had that fault in the first place. So we'll have to get hands-on with this iPad and see if there's a difference. But yes, the display on the face of it is basically the same. But of course, inside we have a brand new chipset, and surprisingly, it's the A17 Pro chipset. Now, why am I surprised by this? It's because A17 Pro is based on the flawed N3B process, which is why we thought Apple gave the iPhone 16 the A18. The A18s are based on the N3E process that's easier and more efficient to produce. So I thought they'd chuck the A18 in the iPad Mini as well, but I guess had leftover iPhone 15 Pro chipsets, and so they're giving it to the iPad Mini. Now this is not horrible news because the A17 Pro is still a great chipset. It's going to be a nice upgrade over the A15 in the Mini 6, and crucially it brings two upgrades. Number one, AAA titles to the iPad Mini, which makes it the perfect pocket rocket. You can be gaming on this. This will run all the best titles because the chipset does support ray tracing. But number two, when it eventually launches, this will support Apple Intelligence since it does have 8 gigs of RAM. And that's actually kind of funny because the iPhone 15 that Apple still sells and is more expensive than the Mini does not support Apple Intelligence. So yeah, the lineup is a bit of a mess, but either way, I'm glad the Mini has Intelligence support. Now this also gains Apple Pencil Pro support, which means apart from the regular iPads, every iPad now supports the Pro Pencil. Apple should be slowly phasing out the second gen Pencil very soon. But what's weird is that I expected the landscape camera to also come to the Mini because of Apple Pencil Pro support, but that's not the case. The camera's still in the portrait orientation, and yes, you could argue that because the Minis are smaller iPads, having the camera in portrait's not too bad, but still, it's weird that this does not get the landscape camera. I thought that was a confirmed feature for the Mini 7, but no, it's not mentioned in the press release, and you can see in the marketing material, the camera has not changed place. Now, the rear-facing camera has actually gained Smart HDR4 support, which is an upgrade over Smart HDR3 on the iPad Mini 6, though I will mention Smart HDR4 on the 13 and 14 were a bit of a mess, skies were overexposed, Smart HDR5 on the 15 and 16 were much better, but at the end of the day, it's an iPad camera. Who actually is going to be taking serious photos with the iPads? They're probably going to be scanning documents, and so this is a minor upgrade. Surprisingly, the Mini does still have a flash, which of course the iPad Air lacks, even though it's more expensive. That never made sense to me. Now moving on to the next upgrades, we have double the storage. Yes, at last Apple's giving us 128 gigs of base storage on the Mini. That's awesome. We expected that because we saw that with the iPad Air, and well, that's about it guys. As I said, this is a very minor refresh for the most part, but considering Apple did not touch the Mini for a long time, the A17 Pro is a nice upgrade, and of course does future-proof it. Oh, actually completely forgot, Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 are now here on the iPad Mini 7, so yes, it's slightly more future-proof in that aspect. And also I was going through the press material, and they said the purple is actually brand new on the Mini, but I'm gonna be honest guys, the purple looks the same as the Mini 6, so there's really only one new color, and that's the blue. Anyways, pricing is exactly the same, $499, and also it's available to pre-order right now and ships on the 23rd. So actually, German was completely wrong with his timelines. I have a feeling there might not be an event now, and maybe because of the MacBook leak, Apple's just going to give us press releases. I could see that happening, so stay tuned for the rest of the week. We could get more Apple releases. It could get exciting. And if you're wondering about the other October announcements we could see, and specifically new M4 Max, I'm gonna tell you that though the color of my shirt may change and my beard may be a little different. According to display guru Ross Young, display panels destined for the 14-inch and 16-inch M4 MacBook Pro models are shipping to Apple this month, which of course does heavily suggest they could be launching in the final quarter of the year, like Gurman recently told us, so expect another Mac-focused October event. Now if you're wondering why Apple's assembling these MacBooks so early, it's really because they're stockpiling these before launch. There's going to be tons of you guys buying these, and so of course they want to have the right amount of these before they're announced officially. Now what Ross Young tells us is awesome news because Gurman was kind of unsure as to which MacBook Pro was going to release. Initially he said only the base model would release and the higher end 14 and 16-inch may release later, but no, Ross Young clearly says display panels for the 16-inch as well are shipping this month, so yes, expect all models to be released all at once. And I feel vindicated, guys, because I've been saying forever that this makes the most sense. Why Apple would only update the base model and then leave the higher end models that are more expensive with last year's chipsets would be very confusing, because clearly you should pay more and get worse features. Yay! Jokes aside, expect Apple to do the same thing they did last year. So it's going to be a simple chip refresh. We might not even get a new color this year, but slightly faster chipsets are appreciated nevertheless. You know what else would be appreciated? Subscribing to the channel, of course. It would bring you the latest about Apple right to subscription box, so please consider it. Join the Saranbyte gang now. Now, what kind of upgrades can we expect with the M4? Well, thankfully, we don't have to speculate because the 2024 iPad Pros already feature the M4. Now, the base models do have a binned M4, but don't expect that to come to the MacBook Pros. The base model got the full fat M3, so expect this to get the full fat M4. And while the M4 has a 10-core CPU that has 4 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores, it's based upon a second generation 3nm process that's much more efficient to produce. And the chip also features a new display engine, dynamic caching that helps significantly increase performance for demanding pro apps and games, and more importantly includes a new neural engine that fuels accelerated AI workloads. And that last point will be the main upgrade Apple's going to flex in the marketing, because remember, the big thing at Apple right now is Apple Intelligence. Much like they plan to do with the iPhone 16 series, I expect Apple to push the narrative that these Macs are powered by the awesomeness of Apple Intelligence and you need it in your life immediately, and M4 is the reason you get all this AI goodness. Things do get more interesting when we get into the variants the M4 could come in. Sedonin is the codename for the base M4. Then we have Bravo, which will be the mid-tier chipsets, so I'm assuming that's both the M4 Max and Pro chipsets. And then Hydra is the highest end offering, which is apparently designed for the Mac Pro, suggesting it's the heavily rumored Ultra or Extreme variant we've heard about in the past. That's very intriguing because I remember talking about the M2 Ultra, but that did not materialize. And so as a result, the Mac Pro kind of felt redundant because it was this massive metal box that had so much wasted space inside and was basically a more expensive version of the Mac Studio, whilst not really offering any performance upgrades except slightly better expandability options. And so I'm glad M4 Ultra could be happening because this could be the game changer for the Mac Pro. Also, I do want to note it's interesting that both the M4 Pro and Max fall under the same codename, because unlike the M1 and M2 variants of these chips, the M3 versions were completely different. Before they had the same CPU configuration, but it would be the GPU that's different, but now even the M3 Max offers more performance cores over the M3 Pro. And so could the M4 be returning back to the good old days of the M1 and M2 layouts where the Pro and Max had the same CPUs? Well, that would be nice considering the M3 Pro in some ways was a weird downgrade over the M2 Pro. Those are the new chips, but let's now talk about the other Macs we should see launch in October alongside the MacBook Pros. First will be the 24-inch iMac, and I'm still surprised we're getting persistent rumors this will be launching with the M4 because Apple took nearly 3 years to update it from M1 to M3, and so going to M4 so soon has caught me off guard a little, I can't lie. I've actually always argued it makes sense to not upgrade the iMac very often because it's a low volume product and the user base for the machine, schools and families, likely won't care about having a slightly faster chipset, but hey, if it's going to be a simple chip swap and the price stays the same, I guess I'll take it. And also maybe some new snazzy colors with this M4 refresh. Next will be the Mac Mini. So interestingly, this will be skipping M3 altogether, and it's jumping to the M4 and the M4 Pro chipset. And I guess it makes sense of skipping M3 Pro because, as I said, it was a weird upgrade over the M2 Pro. However, unlike the other Macs, this won't just be a chip refresh. Here's a comparison picture of the current and possible new design by Tech God on Twitter, and you can see how radical this redesign is. it's so much smaller. And TechGod also predicts, by the way, that we could see elements of the Mac Studio, which I also think is very likely. I would also like to see a space black or space grey option, like of course they briefly offered with the 2018 Mac Minis. But to be honest, colors don't make a huge difference at the end of the day. It's literally just a metal box that's gonna sit in the corner, so I'm also fine with the current silver. Anyways, tell me in the comments, are you guys planning to get a new iPad mini? And on that note, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. And on that note, thank you for watching.